option probably behind Kyle Hendricks to begin 2020. So it's a year where Darvish showed a lot of improvement, a lot of maturity, if you will. And now he's going to get the chance to be on that mound second only to Kyle Hendricks if he's not the opening day starter. So Darvish is a player with an electric arm, and I just can't wait to see what happens with him this year. All right, so let's catch up on some hitters, shall we? What about Fernando Tatis Jr.? Would you like to hear a little bit about him? Well, I would certainly, so let's do that. Well, he struck out twice yesterday. He went 0 for 3 with 2 strikeouts against the Mariners, and he's batting just .125 with a measly .188 slugging percentage this spring. Now, he's 21. He's dealt with the flu and just recently returned to the lineup. And it's also worth pointing out that these games in spring training, they don't count. So I'm looking for great value from Tatis. I think he can put up similar numbers over the course of the year that he did last year for San Diego. So it could be a huge year, second year, for the Padre Fernando Tatis Jr. Young player. Here's another young player, another hitter, Keston Hiura, who singled twice in the Cactus League game against the Dodgers on Wednesday. He was pinch run for after the second hit in the 6th inning. But look what he's doing this spring, guys. The second baseman is now hitting .360. .360. And he's also hit 3 home runs in his 25 plate appearances in the Cactus League. Wow. Now, some writers have questioned his ability to hit for power. I think Hiura just can hit for anything. He has both the hit and power tools to compete with almost anyone. And going 2 for 2 yesterday sure doesn't hurt his cause any now, does it? Yesterday now, the Blue Jays, they just, whomped up on the Orioles 14-2 yesterday. And I want to talk about some of the hitters in this matchup. And I want to start with Blue Jay outfielder Lourdes Gurriel, who yesterday upped his spring batting average to .360 when he went 2 for 2 against the Orioles, and both of his hits went for doubles. He collected 3 runs, a pair of RBIs. Now, he hasn't hit a home run this spring, but that will come. And batting third for the Blue Jays in the order, which is where Gurriel is sitting at the present time, puts him in primo seats, ahead of Vladdy Guerrero Jr. and behind Bo Bichette in the order, and also behind Kevin Biggio. 26 years old, Gurriel just really, I think, scraping the surface on his talent, and I can't wait to see how much talent we see out of him this year. Now, Randall Grichuk on the same team with Toronto. Yesterday, Randall Grichuk cracked a pair of long balls in Wednesday's 14-2 Grapefruit League thump of the Orioles. Now, Randall Grichuk finished the afternoon going 3 for 3. He had 3 runs. He had 5 RBIs. He's now hitting .320 on the spring with 3 home runs. He will serve as the everyday center fielder, where he'll likely bat 6 most days on a very, very good lineup. Now, this 28-year-old Randall Grichuk, he's going to be a great source of cheap power, guys. Remember, 31 homers last year. So, I'm looking for good things from Randall Grichuk, the center fielder of the Blue Jays, hitting 2 home runs yesterday. Other news that we can see is that Alex Cobb, Baltimore Orioles starting pitcher, has an injured finger, and he will not make his spring start today because of a blister on his pitching hand. So Cobb, who has made just 3 starts due to back issues in 2019, now appears to be side-railed just again on another reason. So I want to see what happens there with Alex Cobb. Now, how about some other players maybe that we've not mentioned? How about Shohei Ohtani? Here's some interesting news. The Angels have a plan for which days to pitch starting pitcher Shohei Ohtani when he returns sometime in May. Now, Joe Madden, he hasn't said which day they're targeting, but he did say Wednesday is or does make a lot of common sense, end of quote. The Angels will have 4 Thursday off days total in May and in June, and Ohtani will be available to hit the day after he pitches. So for that reason, he's more valuable as a hitter for the Angels in 2020 as he brings fantasy owners really a nice blend, if you will, of speed and power. So we'll see what Shohei Ohtani brings to the table. So far this spring, it's looking pretty good. So the Angels have a plan for Shohei Ohtani coming off that elbow surgery when he returns sometime in May. Joe Madden said yesterday he didn't know which day he would pitch, but that Wednesday, at least early in the year, made a lot of sense. Here's why. The Angels have 4 Thursday off days in May and June, and Ohtani is not available to hit the day immediately after he pitches. So if he pitches on Wednesday and they're off on Thursday, he doesn't miss a game. Again, he's coming off Tommy John, didn't pitch at all last year. He's going to probably be more valuable as a hitter, but he also, if you're in a league where you draft him and you get whatever he can do, he's going to be pitching this year. And he's shown that he can do both very, very well. So, Shohei Ohtani, we will keep our eye out on you. Freddie Freeman, Atlanta Brave first baseman, one of the all-time greats, who's been away from the team on a family matter, is scheduled to return to the lineup on Friday. And that's according to manager Brian Snickler. Now, Freeman has missed some time this spring due to elbow issues. Some have not been that serious. Outside of Cody Bellinger of the Dodgers, I think Freeman is the next best bat and next best bet at first base. Now, he's got some injury risk with that elbow, but where you see him on average on draft boards is somewhere around pick, if you will, 15 to 18. He's clearly in that second round. Just does he fall early in the second or is he later in the second? But Freddie Freeman will once again dominate Major League Baseball this year. We'll see how he does when he returns on Friday. So, let's check out Mookie Betts back in the lineup. He's been out with some illness for the Dodgers. He led off the game on Wednesday against the Brewers. And let's see how he did. Okay, you ready? He went 0 for 2. That's right, 0 for 2. In fact, other than Corey Seager and that home run we already talked about, there weren't a lot of other hits in the game. Buehler pitched 4 innings, 3 hits, 1 run, 3 walks, and 4 strikeouts. I told you about Kenley Jansen. It's kind of turning into a reliever review day, too. Have you noticed that? A lot of relievers today I've been talking about. Craig Kimbrell of the Cubs, probably the first time this spring I've highlighted Craig Kimbrell in any shape or form. Yesterday, he struck out 2 in a scoreless inning against the Padres. He did allow a single and a walk. but he was able to get out of the inning without damage. Now, he has struggled, or he did struggle in his previous outing. He gave up 2 runs, got only 2 outs, but he was better this time. And he's got to be the stopper for the Cubs in 2020, which is something he was really not last year after he came over as a free agent and finally activated. He really struggled. So we're going to see if the struggles continue this year for Craig Kimbrel. Do you remember me telling you earlier in the week that Blake Snell pitched? He faced 5 hitters. He threw 22 pitches and only 6 were strikes. And he walked 4 batters and they all scored. And it was just a horrible outing for Mr. Blake Snell. Well, complaining of a balky little elbow all spring, and I don't know what that's going to do to his draft position. I think his performance on the field will damage his draft position. I'm not so sure him complaining about his elbow will or will not, but I will tell you this. He did play catch yesterday, and after playing catch, he said, this is Blake Snell, Chris Sale. This is Blake Snell. After playing catch, he said his elbow was fine. It looks like he's going to throw a simulated game this Saturday instead of facing the Blue Jays in a regular game. Now, he couldn't find his command Sunday. That's why he walked 4 batters. But I said this earlier in the week, and I'll say it again. I don't focus so much on the walks as I do the fact that he was throwing 97 and 98, and he said he felt good about doing it. To me, that's the big takeaway from the last outing in a real game. Is the faces may change, but the script remains the same. The Twins announced yesterday that starter Jose Barrios will toe the rubber opening day. That's the 2nd year in a row he's been the opening day starter, by the way. Looking at Barrios, he had a pretty good year last year, 200 innings, 195 strikeouts. He had an ERA just north of 3.5 at 3.68. He's enjoyed a really good spring. Okay, remember his ERA last year was 3.68. So far in 9 1/3 innings, it's 2.89. Now, Barrios' OD average draft position, ADP, is somewhere between, say, 75 and 82. If you can get him at between 75 and 82, bargain, steal, great value, just lukewarm. What do you think? I think Barrios' ADP, where it is now, is probably accurate. I think he has the makings to be better than that. I think he has the makings to be in the Aaron Nola conversation. It just, as of yet, has not happened. And I think a part of it has been the injuries that he sustained and not being able to get in a flow or a consistent flow. How's that? Speaking of Twins, while we talk about a pitcher, let's talk about a hitter, and his name is Byron Buxton. He participated in live batting practice and hit a couple of homers on Wednesday in live batting practice. Said his shoulder was a little sore after the swings. But that's not really shocking because it's been a long time since Byron Buxton has been hitting live pitching. Okay? Unclear whether he'll begin the first game of the season with the Major League Club or not yet. But he could reach 20 homers and 20 steals, especially if he's healthy this year. And a 2020 season from Byron Buxton would be pretty awesome, don't you think? Really? Did you see the contract that New York Mets first baseman Peter Alonso inked on Wednesday? $652,521. Did that on Wednesday again. The contract, which is believed to be the highest salary in all of baseball, is just hopefully